Merry Christmas! Welcome to Sports Pizza. This is the Christmas edition. My name is Edwin Onyeboli. It says so much love, so much positivity, so much funfair, so much eating and drinking. In the midst of this, please spread love to the less privileged. We have a lot to unpack on the show today. It's 2024 in review, and it is a two-part series where we'll take a look at the biggest sporting moments in the year 2024. So here's my advice to you: fasten your seatbelt, because it's going to be a fantastic ride through 2024. We'll go on a short break. When I return, Edwin and of course David Abe will dissect all that we have in store for you. Welcome back. This is still Sports Pizza. David, Merry Christmas. How you doing?
Edwin, Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. It's a pleasure to be here as always. I mean, this season just brings out the very best in humans.
Yeah.
There are some that also want to bring out the very worst. But I think be on the better side, be on the good side.
All right, like I said, we have 2024 in review. And David, it's been a fantastic year, sporting-wise. The highs, there were lows. In general, what's your summary of 2024 from a sporting perspective?
I mean, it was excitement all the way, I think, from start to finish. We started with the AFCON, fantastic one, We saw one of the best AFCONs I've seen in a while in terms of everything that surrounded the competition. And then the Euros also gave us a lot. And then the leagues, the European football, provided some spectacular moments. Also, we saw the Paris Olympics, everything that went on around it. We saw the Paralympics as well. We saw tennis as well. Formula One, fantastic season. Boxing also threw up some surprises. Anthony Joshua, where his career is going to go heading into 2025, we don't know, but what a year it has been generally. All
right, like you said, 2024 has been a fantastic year sporting-wise, and we'll start with the very first one. You talked about the Africa Cup of Nations. Cote d'Ivoire, eventual winners, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, were so close, but yet so far away. For you, what were the high moments and, of course, the low moments at the AFCON?
I think for me, the high point was, the buzz the AFCON generated on social media. I think I've not globally. I mean, I saw handles who I follow in the diaspora who talked about it generally. And they talked about it in glowing lights. Most of these players were in the face of the world, everybody saw. And also the officiating was fantastic. Everybody generally commented on how good the VAR, everything. It just went with a spectacular AFCON that we saw, and Ivory Coast emerged champion. Sad for Nigerians, but good for Africa generally. But my low points was, how CAF handled the whole thing. We talked about the buzz. Fortunately, the buzz was created by social media, not CAF themselves. CAF did not key into it. And we looked at how the year went after that. We didn't seem to build on that success. Hopefully, they can learn some lessons from that and build forward for next AFCON.
Let's talk about the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Nobody gave Jose Peseiro a fighting chance of getting to the final. Against all odds, on the back of a very conservative approach, the Super Eagles got to the final. We produced the player of the tournament in Ademola Lookman. We also had, like I said a couple of seconds ago, William Troost-Ekong was voted as the MVP. He went on to create the record, the highest scoring defender in the history of the African Cup of Nations. Overall, what did you make of the Super Eagles' performance at the AFCON?
I think generally a lot of the credit must go to Jose Peseiro, considering the fact we went to that competition not fancy. The preparation to that competition not the best, the pre-friendlies and everything didn't go well. But he got in that tournament and set up a tournament team. The way we played, the results we got showed a team that had all it takes to get to the final. But when they got to the final, unfortunately, they could not cross that hurdle because where they needed to actually shift gear and actually go for a one-off game, you cannot be as conservative as that. You saw how Ivory Coast, struggled and found their way into the final. But when they got to the final, all hell broke loose, and then they placed their hands off the handbrake, and then they went completely all out in that game. Super Eagles failed to actually raise that. We felt there was more they could have given in that final specifically, and we saw players that were playing a bit sharp with Troost-Ekong. All the attacking qualities we expected to actually explode in that final. We didn't see that, but hey, we can build on from that.
But still, with the Super Eagles of Nigeria, David, they were one step away from winning the AFCON in 2024. Can it happen in 2025?
On the basis of the quality of players that we have and how these players have performed, I think it can. But do we have the coaching? Do we have the structure, the administration to actually put things in? Because it feels like, as Nigerians, as Football Federation, we keep getting all these haphazard results. We stumble on those kind of results, but we don't. You look behind the scenes and you don't see deliberate plans to actually lead us to that position. And that's why I fear that we may not be able to cross the line again because we have not done the homework that needs to be done.
All right, David, from one confederation competition to another major confederation competition, the European Championship, Spain emerged winners after a long month battle with some of the top countries in the European scene. For Spain, I never give them a fighting chance, to be honest. I felt they were going there not only to perform, but also show a glimpse of the future. But they told us that the future is now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for Luis de la Fuente and some of his boys, and considering the fact that a lot of that success was built on 17-year-old Lamine Yamal. He came into that competition 16 years old, and then he left the competition as a man. I think he really announced himself to the world after the season he had with Barcelona. And I think for Spain, they were not fancied, but we just felt something was bubbling. And that's when you look at teams who have countries who have deliberate plans. After the cycle they had with their glorious teams, they decided to go back to the drawing board and actually churn out talent again. And you look at the bulk of that squad, and that's why you have optimism for them that they can go even further. Because you look at the squad that they have, guys below the age of 25 with a sprinkle of experience, and I think it was a fantastic tournament for them.
While a fantastic tournament for Spain, it was heartbreak once again for England. The search for another major title since 1966 continues.
I think England, at this point, they will see it as maybe a mental block because talent-wise, they can rival most of the best countries in the world. But it just seems like, is it the coaching? Is it, the facility, the factors that are beyond their control to actually get it over the line? We saw them play not the very best in the competition, but they did what they needed to do. How they've shown over the last few competitions, they can get all the way to the final. But would they be able to cross the finish line? They failed to again.
For Portugal, Cristiano Ronaldo, once again, is appeared most at the competition, more games, most goals, he's won it, top scorer, blah, blah, blah. But do you think that probably cost Portugal? The fact that Ronaldo, not at his best physically at Euros, took the spot of what people say, took the spot of someone younger, someone who was more mobile, someone who was more sharper.
I mean,
is that the case?
I don't agree to that school of thought generally, because when you look at the options that they have as replacement, none of them have actually lived up to the hype. You look at Rafael Leao, somebody who is in and out. He has not shown to be a consistent leader over the course of his career. You look at the likes of Goncalo Ramos, he's not the most consistent. He had one of the best seasons with PSG. Look at the options there. You have Felix, and I think it's for this reason, that I think these guys need to actually play Ronaldo off the team. They've not shown enough to actually make him leave the team gracefully, and that's why Ronaldo is still hanging around. It seems like a shadow that refuses to leave.
For the host country, Germany, they were coming off the back of some horrendous performances at the World Cup and, of course, at the Euros. Julian Nagelsmann was tasked with taking charge of the team led by former Bayern Munich and now Barcelona coach Hansi Flick. What's your general overview of Germany's performance and, of course, what the future holds for them?
I think the future is very bright for them. I think what Nagelsmann has done is hinge the future on some of their brightest players. I think the German national team at this point in time have begun to produce some talent in some areas. In some other areas, they are still lacking. I mean, in the attacking options, strikers, they still have a dearth of options in that. But I think Nagelsmann has found a way to work around it. In the likes of Florian Wirtz and Yamal Musiala, we have two of the most exciting attacking players in world football, so we can build around that. In defense as well, they still have Rudiger, they have Jonathan Tah, they have Middle Stars, they have some options. In goalkeeping, they still have some options as well. So I think he has found a way to build around what they have, and he's trying to move them into another direction.
Yes, it is 2024 in the review. If you're just joining us, this is Sports Pizza. What a fantastic year. For now, we leave football, David. Maybe there's still football in it. It is the biggest sporting event, sporting spectacle in the world. The 2024 Paris Olympic lived up to its billing, yes or no?
Generally, as a competition, it did, because on the sporting side, it did, but some other issues, were let down. Okay,
so what are the issues? Let's start with the negatives and we move to the positives.
So, we looked at the fact that some of the facilities, I remember the swimming events, the long distance swimming, they had to flush out the river that was to be used for the event. And also there were a lot of logistical issues that France had to deal with. France were going through some difficult situation politically, and I think that played out in some of the way they prepared for the competition. But I think generally sports will always find a way to bridge the gap, and that's why it's the opium of society. And I think it delivered on the whole.
All right, let's talk about the positives for you. Like I said, it was a spectacle.
Yeah.
We saw some amazing performances, records created, records shattered, and of course, plenty of tears.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, in the 100 meters, Noah Lyles, I think he's been looking like the man who actually needed to get a 100-meter title to actually cement himself as one of the best sprinters of his generation. And I think fantastic one for him. We also saw the likes of Leslie Tebogo from Botswana, unfancied, and when he puts his country on the map. We saw, Julian Alfred from St. Lucia. I'm sure before that Olympics, a lot of people did not know what that country existed on the map, and I think she put her country on the map. We also saw the Nigerian basketball team. I need to special shout out to Rena Wakama and her team. Quarterfinals of the Olympics, set a lot of records along the way. And in the football, also the basketball as well, for the US men and women, national team. Hey, they do what they know how to do best, claiming good as usual. And I think generally the Olympics, track and field, we saw a lot of interesting events, so many to unpack today.
All right, still with the Olympics, let's focus on Team Nigeria. No medals in 2024. Yeah. And there was an inquiry. We always like inquiries in Nigeria. You set up a committee, and you set up a committee to relay the message from the committee. You set up blah, 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 blah. Was it avoidable, the shambolic performance? Was it avoidable?
I don't think so. I think we set ourselves up for this. We look at the fact that successive Olympic Games, we've gone into these Olympic Games with the different, sports minister, with the different, sporting federation. And it's just the fact that on the eve of the tournament was when funds were actually released for the... What were we expecting to go and do? Teams have been preparing for the past, 8 years, some have prepared 16 years for this Olympics, and then we are now going 2 weeks, 3 weeks to the Olympics, pumping money. The money is not going to, make any difference when people are actually prepared to actually win medals. And I think that's why we found ourselves. And unfortunately, going into the next Olympic, it doesn't look like much is going to change, because a lot of changes have happened in the sporting federations, in the sporting ministry as well. And where are we going? We don't know. All
right. Hey, like David said, where are we going? We don't know. The favor of Philly situation sort of encapsulates our terrible outing at the 2024 Paris Olympics. There's more on the show. Probably we'll steal a chicken or two. Take a bite. When we return, there's more to unpack. This is Sports Pizza. Don't change the channel. Welcome back. It is still the Christmas edition of Sports Pizza. Edwin and David in the building. David, we did the Paris 2024 Olympics before we went on a short break. It's the turn of the Paralympics, and for Nigerians, it is our forte.
I mean, we look at the fact that every year, or the past few Olympics, the past few tournament cycles now, the Olympics will disappoint, then the Paralympians will be the ones to bail us out and actually bring some joy. And unfortunately, we don't give these athletes the support that we give. If we give them a measure of what we give the Olympians, they would have done better. So they make the best out of the adversity that they are faced with. It's just a clear indication of how we are as a nation, our sporting philosophy, and how we want to progress. We just keep haphazarding results, and I don't know how we are going to find ourselves out of this situation.
If you can find your way down to the National Stadium and see the conditions these athletes train under, and these guys go out there, represent the country well, give us a couple of medals, they come back, and the cycle continues. I hope 2025 brings a change, new events in their life. For once, let us come on set and say positive things about sports. Now, there are a lot of positives going on in the country, but it should be more than what we have right now. And I hope that that's what 2025 will bring for us. From the Paralympics straight up to Formula One, 2024 was a great year. It was brilliant. We had competition, McLaren, Ferrari. At the end of the day, it was Red Bull. Max Verstappen.
Yeah, so it was Max Verstappen. It was no Red Bull because Red Bull found a way.
Yes,
they found a way to capitulate. You know, after the dominating season he had last season, we thought this would be another dominant performance. You know, Verstappen proved himself as one of the best driver on the circuit right now because he saw it over the line. But his team generally will scratch their head about what happened in the second half of the season. But for other teams that can take positive, McLaren can take positive. They have two solid drivers. They have a good car. They have Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, two guys who actually pushed as much as they could. Can they give more? I think so. I think for Lando Norris especially, there's more for him to give because we saw how he performed this season. The likes of Ferrari, we look at how they performed. Second in the Constructors' Championship, fantastic season for them. Even though as the drivers, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, they did as much as possible. But now they are bringing in Lewis Hamilton 2025. They will look at it as a sign of things to come for next season. We saw the likes of Alpine as well. You know, generally F1 this season was really exciting. Next season, will it be a sweep for Max Verstappen and Red Bull? We are not sure, but we're here for the competition. Yeah,
for Max Verstappen, at some points, the internal fighting almost derailed his season. He started like a house on fire. Then it was about May, June, he went on a drought before he picked up and finally, and got past the finish line ahead of the rest drivers on the grid. Looking back at events of 2024, do you think we might see a shock move in 2025 for Max Verstappen?
No, I'm not saying that. I think he will still want to. A lot of the internal crisis, internal fighting has been quieted by his drivers' championship. They just need to screw their heads down and, you know, constructors title next season, see how they can go about it, and also get a proper replacement for, you know, Sergio Perez, who I'm sure is leaving at the end of this season because he's had a very shambolic season. They need to get a better driver to actually push Max Verstappen all the way.
From there, we'll go to tennis, and it was the year of Yannick Sinner. 2 Grand Slams singles title, ATP finals, world #1, 7 titles in 2024, but it wasn't without controversy. Absolutely. But what a year he had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, considering the fact, you look at 2023, he had a season of bubbling under. He looked like one of the names in the ring. And then 2024, he became, you know, the main man on the circuit. It was last season was the year of Carlos Alcaraz. It felt like, you know, the next thing. And this season, he gave Alcaraz a push all the way, and he gave him a run for his money. At the beginning, it was neck on neck, and then getting to the end of the season, Alcaraz began to tail out, and then Yannick Sinner became the man of the moment. But with the controversy around him, hopefully they find a way around it. I don't know what that way around it is going to be because it's in the hands of, you know, the legislative body, the governing council of the tennis world. But I think for him, he just did what he needed to do: play tennis and get on the court and deliver the result. 2025 hopefully will be a better year for him.
2025, what are your expectations from the likes of Zverev, Carlos Alcaraz, as they look to dethrone Yannick Sinner?
I think for me, the biggest name will be Carlos Alcaraz. I think Zverev has been the nearly man for a long time in his career. He was the nearly man in the Nadal and the Federer era when they were tailing off, and also Djokovic. And now he wants to be the nearly man to two guys who he got on the same before. And I think for him, he needs to sit down and analyze his career and see how he can push forward. And there are some other names also as well. You know, Olga Rune, the likes of Kasparov, you know, some other names. Hopefully they can give.
Those guys don't inspire confidence, David. They don't inspire
I'm just putting their name there.
I think the best player on tour is Carlos Alcaraz.
Yeah.
When he's at his best, he's not distracted. Yeah. He's not playing to the gallery. He is unplayable. Yeah. As good as Sinner is, I think Carlos Alcaraz is better. Yeah. But one thing Sinner has over Alcaraz is his ability to remain focused. Yeah. And that's what I think Alcaraz missed in 2024. Yeah. It could have been a clean sweep for him if he played as his best. Yeah. But hey, it is what it is. For 2024, it also brought us tears. Adibure said goodbye to tennis. Yeah. Rafa Nadal also said goodbye to tennis.
I mean, two names who I grew up watching, and the fantastic career both men have had. I mean, if you did not watch this man, I don't know how you will be able to relive those memories. Murray really, he had a lot of hype, a lot of potential at the beginning. He didn't deliver as much.
Unfortunately,
he came in the era of
the
big three, and I think, but he did what injuries also did not help him much in his career. But I think for me, I like to describe Rafa Nadal as the antithesis to Roger Federer. You know, Roger Federer was all about finesse, you know, and all about grace. But Rafa Nadal was the forceful guy. You know, he was the game guy, always ready to deliver on the biggest. And I think for me, two players signing out this year. Hopefully, this generation will have guys to look up to and try to reach those standards, but I'm not sure of that.
Finally, from the ATP, Novak Djokovic, no Grand Slam singles title for the first time in a long while, but that elusive gold medal at the Olympics, finally he landed it. It's safe to say he's completed 30s, and if he retires at the end of 2024, which he has said he's not going to do, he's already the greatest of all time.
I mean, with the career he has had, he's the greatest of all time. He has achieved everything. I think if you look at the way the season panned out, you know, he was picking and choosing some of the tournaments, and then he got to the Olympics, which was the one that was
primed himself.
Yeah, at the back of his mind, he must have primed himself for. I mean, he's human. At the end of the day, we understand how the psychology of these things work, and he gave his best in that tournament. And after that, he also took it. So I think he deserves to have the career ending he's having right now. 2025 will be the year of see how many more titles I can pick up along the way. Maybe 1 or 2 more Grand Slam. I'm not sure, but I think 1 Grand Slam, I'm tipping in for 1. But fantastic career we have seen.
In the WTA, Arena Sabalenka ended the year as world number 1. Fantastic year also for the Belarusian, who sort of upped the ante in a year where we thought Igor Swiatek was going to take a clean sweep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I still consider her the most rounded player
in
the WTA circuit. She has everything on every surface, and she just needed to add 1 or 2 more things. So, for Swiatek, she looks like somebody who is familiar with one surface, which is clay, where she has been strongest. You look at her record on other surfaces, she's really been very poor. And for Coco Gauff, I think for her, she's 20. She needs to grow and she needs to develop. But I think she's following an organic progression, and she can only get better from where she is.
David, one of the exciting things about the WTA Tour is the random unpredictability. Today you have 1 winner, the next day you have 0 winner. We saw it a lot in 2024. For Sabalenka, who ended the year as world number 1, she won 4 titles in 2024. You compare that to Sina, who won about 7 titles in the ATP. Is this what we want in the WTA? Do we want to see the randomness, or we want an era where one player like Serena Williams absolutely dominated the pack?
I think for me, it's just based on the quality we are seeing on the circuit right now. I think it's not based on what we want. It's based on those players. I think those 3 names we mentioned earlier are the outstanding candidates. But I think I'm glad that we are seeing some of these other names. Actually, we saw the Chinese lady Qin Wenzheng as well. She came on the Jasmine Paolini as well. You know, saw some of these ladies. But I think the randomness might be a factor why the WTA is what it is. Maybe it's exciting generally, and I think we're here for it.
All right, this is where we drop anchor on today's show. Like I said earlier, it's a 2-part series where we review 2024 from a sporting perspective. On the next show, we'll wrap up the series with more from 2024. As always, we leave you with our video of the week. Do enjoy the rest of your holiday seasons. Of course, David, thank you for being a part of the show. Once again, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you. It's always a pleasure to be here. From me, David, it's Merry Christmas and goodbye.
And from me, Edwin Onyebolise, and everyone at the Sports Pizza family production team, wishing you a Merry Christmas and, of course, a Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2025. Have fun. God bless you.